so good.
Jen's the first timer.
Yay, welcome, welcome.
I think it's going to be a good one.
This is going to be, I have a feeling. I have a great feeling about this. Okay.
I got a feeling.
You got a feeling.
Yep. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to Let's Make Art. We like to paint all the time, at least once a week. So we get together, we do different projects. That's pretty much it.
That's it. We like to paint.
We have a good time. That's
We like water, we
that's
like
the
color.
main thing you need to know. We like to paint with watercolor. We have Natalie here today painting with us and Jenny painting with us. So welcome, welcome. Al will be say hello.
I'm behind the camera
Yeah,
at
there we
all
go.
times.
And I'm Sarah Cray. And today we are doing this gorgeous sunflower. It's so beautiful.
So lovely.
Say ooh and ah. Thank you. So before we get into that, we're going to do some warm-ups, and we have some fun, exciting news. We have a Facebook group now called Let's Make Art Together. Al?
It's true.
It's true.
It's all true.
So you can post your work. People have been posting their previous projects, and other people have been commenting and encouraging, and it's like making all of my watercolor dreams come true. Seeing you guys, you know, comment on each other's pictures and post it and all that stuff. So please feel free to join. I think you do have to ask to join, but we accept
we're
everybody.
approving. We don't want any goobers in there.
But you accept everyone.
We do.
We're accepting anyone that we want. So if you bought from us or if you painted a painting, we'll let you in. Mainly it's there so that we can kick you out if you're a meanie.
Yeah, but I don't think that, because I don't think we'll have that problem, because you all are doing so awesome. And so go ahead and join that, post your artwork. You can even post paintings that you haven't painted with us if you just wanted to share ideas or that.
And
That feels a little
It's called
braggy.
Let's Make Art Together?
Yeah, Let's Make Art
Let's
Together.
Make Art Together on Facebook.
Yeah, on Facebook. So join us there. Love that. Actually, I think Faye was the one that came up with that idea. Thanks, Faye. So thank you for that. And is there anything else I need to say before we get started?
So yeah, we're moving away from the stoppers.
Yes.
So we get this question all the time, which is, what is the trick with those little bottles and those stoppers? And unfortunately, I had to say, there is no trick. They're just really hard. But no more, because we are done with those. So if you order a kit and your next box, you're gonna see that we have different things in there now, and it's so much better. Should I explain what they are?
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of the glass bottles with the stoppers, what we have now are plastic ones that have a squeeze top lid. So you can just take off the lid and then you can squeeze it, kind of like the contact solution, small, kind of like that. So you can control how much paint you take out, and it's not glass, so they won't break, and you don't have to take the stoppers out. There's no stoppers.
Oh, awesome.
So you can just squeeze it onto your palette and you're ready to
We
go.
also moved to completely recyclable plastic things.
Yes, you're gonna notice a different texture in your plastic that we put the kit stuff in, and that's because it's a plant-based plastic.
Getting better all the time.
Yeah, so
Making moves.
we're making great moves,
That's awesome.
positive moves, okay?
Learning.
We're working hard.
Yeah.
You think we do nothing but paint, but we do some stuff.
We do some stuff.
Somebody just commented, is that the Missouri quilt lady? Yes, yes it is, that's Jenny.
Jenny sews and paints. I'm trying anyway. This is my, they say everybody, whatever your creative outlet is, you should create in another
Yes.
environment. And so this is my way to stretch my creativity, is to paint with you. So I'm expecting you to make a quilt like any day.
Okay, you know what? I
Promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be patient with myself,
I promise to be patient with myself.
and I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise not to compare my work
Thank
mostly.
you. No?
I'm not sure. You always leave it kind of open-ended. Like, compare my work to what exactly? To each other's, to old work, to...
Let's say to each other's.
Okay.
Promise not to compare my work to each other's. You know what? Valid point, Natalie. Valid
I'm
point.
wondering.
Valid,
I
yeah.
mean,
It is, because
we'll find a loophole.
she will. But the reason why we don't want to compare work to each other's is we've all have been painting for different amounts of time. Some of us are just starting, or me, I've been painting forever. And it's not fair because this is a practiced skill. And so the more you do it, the more you'll get better. And so if this is the first time picking up a paintbrush or using watercolor, it's not fair to compare your work to mine or somebody who's been doing this for a couple of years because they've just had more practice with the medium. So that's why we're being patient, we're being kind, and always, if you just want to get better at anything, you just keep on doing it over and over and you will get better.
Very cool.
Cool. All right, let's start with some warm-ups.
All right.
Grab your paintbrush.
Which one?
I'm using my 6. I always like to go with like a medium-sized brush for my
only
warm-ups.
have a 4.
Well, that's because
That'll work.
I only have a 6 and I'm using it.
Okay.
So you get to use my 4.
All right. Then. I have a 6. I could have brought mine.
Brought my 6.
Well, if you want to use a 6, you'll have to bring it next time.
I do believe
I don't think you're an
you probably sell
We're fine.
these.
We're fine.
We do sell these. We do sell these. Okay, but you can use whatever brushes you have at home, and we tell you what brushes we use for the kit. For this project, I used around 6 and a 2, but if you have a 4, you can use a 4. If you have a 10, you can use a 10. They're kind of interchangeable, but the 6 I like because it's like a good medium size in between those two. So our first warm-up that we're gonna do is I want to play with brush strokes, okay? So I want you, because if you look at our sunflower, I'm gonna pull it over here, you're gonna see that there's a bunch of different shapes going on, shapes and direction. We're just going to play with different petal shapes just using your brush. So I want you to grab your brush, we're going to get some paint. And if you're new to watercolor, I like to always dip my paintbrush first in the water and then I kind of hit it off the side to get those extra drips out so it's not, you know, dripping wet. And I'm going to grab some yellow.
Is this the same color?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can use whatever color you want. This is just warm up, so whatever color you want to play with. And I want you to just play with different brush strokes. Try making a petal shape, like that. And I just want you to play with round brushes. The great thing with round brushes is they have a narrow top and a thick body, and so you can do thin to thick lines in the same stroke, just depending on pressure. So if you've never used a round brush before, then go ahead, and I just want you to play with that thin to thick line. So start off with the thin line, soft pressure, and then press down, and you're going to see you're going to get a thicker line, like that.
Mine all look like Hershey Kisses.
That's great. I love Hershey Kisses.
Perfect.
So yeah, if you've never done a round before, I just want you to kind of get used to how pressing hard on your paintbrush, you can get a thicker line. So you can see, so you can do your petals 2 ways. You can either outline your petal like that and fill it in, or if you want, you can try and do it in one brush stroke. So this was just done just in one stroke. I pressed down to get a thicker line for that petal.
Is that like what the cool kids do?
It's definitely what the cool kids. No, it's just a different way. I honestly, when I do my petals or leaves, I use the same kind of technique. And some of them I outline and some of them I just do in one stroke. I kind of mix it up.
Do you always start from the outside edge of the petal and go in, or do you start from the inside, like where the petals
I start from the inside too.
and then you go out, or you
Yeah.
alternate them?
I don't think I have a rhyme or reason to it. I think with this sunflower, I will start from the center in and go out. So this is starting from the center in and going out. And the other thing I want you to
So
pick.
you start fat and go skinny?
Mm-hmm. So you're gonna start with pressing hard and kind of use the side of your brush too. You can see, this is me using the side of my brush here. See how thick that line can get? And then you just kind of lighten it up. And then the other thing that I want you to pay attention to when you're doing these petals is they don't all have to be so straight. So as we go around the center, pretend this is my center, we're gonna go like this, right? However, petals themselves have a curve in them. They don't just shoot straight up all the way around. Some of them, like if this is my bottom part here and I'm coming out, they kind of curve and then go back. You see how they have that? See the difference between those? Yes, exactly. Yep. So keep that in mind when you're doing your petals for this sunflower, that they don't all need to be kind of this sun rays brush stroke.
That's going to be hard for me.
Some of them are going to have a curve in them. Okay? So kind of practice those different brush strokes, just get used to it. And the thing I want you to keep in mind too is there's going to be so many petals on this that one petal might look a little wonky. That's okay. They don't all need to be so beautifully perfect, because some of them are going to be like, oh, okay, that's fine. Some of them are going to have different tops, curve. So be kind to yourself in that matter. But I also want you to kind of change the direction of your petals. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is I want you to do a petal. And you got to work quick. While it's still wet, I want you to pick up some of that amber, which is the orangish color, and just drop it in the bottom. And just kind of see what that does. And because I like to drop in colors as I go, just to get different textures. And you can like kind of blend that out if you don't like how strong that is. But I just want you to see that you can always add color after you put something down. You can just drop that in.
I love the dropping in color. That was what I liked about the elephant last week.
Yeah, because that was the entire like water part. Was just getting it wet, dropping in color.
That's fun.
Okay, and the other thing I want you to practice really quick is I want you to practice getting a light wash or a light value wash. So value is just the lightness and darkness of something. So this is a light value yellow. And to get something that's a light value, you just have more water than paint. So this is where I have a lot of water. So almost like that yellow is just kind of barely there on that paper. It's a light. So I want you to do a section of a light value wash. And then I want you to do a medium value. So that's going to have more paint. And then I want you to do a dark value. And the darker value is going to be more paint than water. So it's going to be really paint heavy. Emily asked if she needs to buy the $15 project kit in order to have access to this video. Nope. No, you don't have to buy anything from us at all. You can just watch with your own step.
Go to the project page. We have everything linked there.
Oh yeah, we have like a new setup for our project page. If you go to any project on our kit, we have like links right underneath it that shows you the recorded tutorial, the live tutorial, outlines, supplies, everything you need. You don't have to have any login to go on our website. It's free for anybody and everybody.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Okay, so we want a light, medium, and dark. Yep. Very nice. Okay, and the next thing that we're going to do is I just want to, we're just going to mix the color green really quick. Now, for you guys at home with your yellow, what I would suggest is for you to make 2 different piles of yellow. One pile of yellow is going to be for your petals, and the other pile of yellow is going to mix with the iris blue to make our green. So,
have you gone over colors yet?
Oh, I haven't, Jenny. Thanks. Okay.
Thinking about you guys out there.
So we have daffodil yellow for our yellow. We have amber yellow, which is kind of like an orange. We have black, and we have iris blue. So you'll notice that we have colors that we're using, like green and brown, that aren't here, and that's because we're going to mix those. So make sure you have 2 different piles of yellow, so that way you don't like kind of use all your yellow, turning it into green. Yes. So what I want you to do is just take a little bit of yellow. Can they see the palette in the camera?
Yeah, hold on. There you go.
Okay. So you're going to grab a little bit of yellow, and then you're going to pick up a little bit of this iris, and you're just going to mix that together.
So pretty.
Which one on this palette is iris?
Mom,
That
I want
one.
you to stay in that voice the whole time.
So pretty.
So pretty. And sometimes you can actually get richer colors by mixing. So I want you to mix this green, and then I want you to add a little bit more blue to that mixture till you get almost like this, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a deep green.
Like a smoky mountain green.
Sure, sure.
a blue
smoky, smoky. It's like a blue green.
Agree to disagree.
So if you want your green to be a little bit more on the yellow side, then you're gonna have more daffodil yellow. And if you want your green to be like this deep, darker green that has a bluish hint, you're gonna have a little bit more iris blue. Okay, and I think that's all we really, oh, do you know what, let's practice our thin lines. I want you to switch to your 2 brush. And if you don't have a 2 brush, you can still do the same thing using a 10 or a 6 or a 4. You just gotta be really careful with it. I just want you to practice doing nice thin lines because we're gonna do some leaf stems. So I want you to practice just kind of doing thin lines across your paper. Now I've noticed that it's so much easier to get a thinner line if you have light pressure with your brush. It's almost to the point where you're like barely touching the paintbrush on the paper. Now your line might shake a little bit. That's okay. Mine does that too sometimes. Or maybe you miss a couple of sections because you're going so light to the paper that it accidentally lifts off. That happens to me too. I usually just leave it. I don't mess with that too much. Also another thing, this one doesn't matter as much because our thin lines are short, but if you're ever doing a painting where you need a long thin line or a long stem, then you want to use your arm to make the line. So I'm using my whole arm as opposed to resting my wrist on the paper and trying to do a thin line that way. Because then my space is limited.
That one's the worst.
It's just you can't go as long.
Why don't you do it pretty the other way?
I'll do it this way, see?
Oh, that's beautiful.
See, I can go forever. I can go as long as I need to when I lift up and use my arm. But when I put my wrist down, I can only go this long without kind of running out of room. And there's a natural curve to it. Okay. Fabulous, fabulous.
Every time I do this, I think that the practice pages, they've got to tell us some about your personality. You know, like look at Natalie's. She's got 3/4 of her page.
Yeah.
Left. I didn't even have room hardly to draw a line. You know, I just wonder what that. You know, if we had these analyzed, what it would mean.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed too that usually people who are beginners or a little bit more on the timid side like to work smaller. And that's not saying, sorry, Natalie, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I was going to say Natalie's better at this than I am, so
Yeah,
I can't compare, but she's very good.
And so don't be afraid, especially.
Notice you have half a page left.
I'm saving it for later.
See, and I'm just all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm just nuts.
In the warm-ups, and if you're kind of playing around, don't be afraid to work big. I know that sometimes we're a little bit scared of that because we're afraid we're going to make mistakes or any of that. But I kind of like to.
James says our
Go
color
crazy.
is balsam pine.
Balsam pine, of course it is.
Sounds pretty
Oh,
fancy.
that's so
That
obvious.
sounds perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
So obvious.
Okay, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Move your scratch
Any
paper.
questions from our audience?
Yeah.
Do they have any techniques they want to go over? Any other practice stuff?
Any other practice stuff or anything you need me to go over before we get started on this
Speak
sunflower?
now or forever. Till next week, hold your peace.
No, you can ask a question whenever.
I mean, later, it's fine.
Or any
Or just while we're
Fine.
painting
I actually
later.
have a question, but it's
Yeah.
not on technique.
Okay.
So I happen to love this sunflower. I think it's
Okay.
beautiful.
Okay.
And I would like to paint it big.
Okay.
And what I'm wondering is, do they make big watercolor paper?
Yes.
And
Yes.
do they? Like a big one that, okay. And then also, when you want to scale something up big,
Yeah.
what are the,
Techniques?
yeah.
Okay.
How do you do that?
So
We could probably do a whole video on that.
You
yeah.
probably could.
There's a couple different ways that you can scale up techniques. Probably some of the easier ones is you just turn this into a grid. So you do like this.
Interesting. I would have never thought of that.
And then the bigger size you also turn into a grid, and then you just look at the individual squares and match those up.
I just use bigger brushes and do the same
Yes.
thing.
You probably could do that as
Or you
well.
can eyeball it if you're comfortable and just kind of playing around, but if you want it to be exact.
That should be the technique we teach. Just look at it.
Just look at it, just eyeball it. You'll be fine.
I eyeball a lot of things in sewing. I'll tell you what.
Okay, now let's start. And we have 4 steps to our sunflower, right? Were there 4? Okay, great. The first one we're going to start is our center. And that way we kind of like have an understanding of where our sunflower is on the paper and where our petals go, where the stem meets, you know, all of that good stuff. So to start with our center of our flower, we're going to mix brown. And brown is one of the easier colors to mix because usually if you just mix a bunch of colors together, they turn brown. It's a rule I live by. It works out great.
I just discovered this.
But a really easy way, actually, brown is essentially a dark orange. So we're going to take our orange, like our amber, and a little bit of black and mix that together.
Oh, look at that.
And you get a brown,
You get brown.
just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to start with the center of my circle. Now, the thing that you have to keep in mind is you don't want the center of your sunflower to be a perfect circle. I kind of went over this in the video tutorial, but we're looking at this sunflower from an angle, so everything is going to be kind of shifted a little bit in terms of perspective. So we're not doing a perfect circle. We're going to do more of an oval that's on its side. And I'm going to start kind of near the center of my paper. And I usually just do kind of like dash marks around to make my oval shape. So there's my oval. You can see it's more on its side. And that is because the sunflower is turning away from us. And that shifts the shape of the circle. Yep. Very nice. And we are all eyeballing this. There's no outline for this, so some of our centers are going to be a little bit smaller, some are going to be bigger. We embrace those differences, we accept them, we love them. So remember to be kind to yourself, okay? Don't be hard on yourself if the center of your sunflower is smaller or bigger than mine. And then I'm going to just put in the kind of like the eyeball of this sunflower, just using that dark brown and filling it in. I want it to be pretty dark. Cherry asks, what size brush? I'm using my round 6 for this.
Uh-oh. Let me put a
Paper towel. After I put in the center of my sunflower, I'm gonna just kind of wet my brush and just kind of go along the edge of my sunflower here. I'm not gonna touch the center because then that really nice dark center is just gonna bleed everywhere. And I wanna keep that kind of more dark. I'm just kind of softening these edges that I made on my sunflower. I mean on my center of my sunflower. Yep. And we'll go back in towards the last step when we do the details and kind of add a little bit more color to that, add some texture. But for now, we really just need to kind of establish where the center of our sunflower is. And we're going to move on to step 2, which is our first layer of petals. Okay?
You're on a 6 right now?
Using a round 6. And I'm still going to use this round 6 when I move to do my petals. Now, the thing I want you to keep in mind, I want you guys to keep in mind as we add our petals, is first we're going to do 2 layers. This is our first layer of petal. And I want you guys to notice that the direction of our petals change as we go around the sunflower. You guys see that? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is this sunflower, because it's turning away from us, this first layer of petals right here are foreshortened, which means that they are going to be shorter than these petals on the side and on the top. Okay, and that's just this first layer here.
Maybe explain foreshortening again.
Okay, yeah. Foreshortening, you might be like, what is foreshortening? So when you think of a hand in your brain, this is how you think of a hand, okay? And this is how you want to draw a hand. But what happens when you're trying to draw something and my hand is turned this way? So my hand used to be 6 inches high, okay? If you were trying to draw it, it's exactly 6 inches. I've measured it. Comes in handy.
Wow.
And then,
Handy.
but as my hand turns towards you, it's gonna get shorter. So here's it straight up. Here's it, so now it's only this high, now it's only this high, and then here it's only like ½ an inch high. It's only as thick as my hand. So even though our brain is telling us to draw a hand like this, you're actually gonna draw or paint what you see, which is the hardest thing in art to learn. So pay attention to that. You're painting what you see and not what your brain tells you you see. Okay, your brain tries to mess you up when it comes to painting. Don't listen to it. So here's this. This is my hand foreshortened. So the petals are the same way. When we think of a sunflower petal, we think of a nice long petal, but then if it's turned towards us, it actually becomes fairly short. So that's why on the bottom part, our petals are shorter for that first layer. Okay? Okay.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so I'm gonna grab my daffodil yellow. I'm gonna put a little bit of the amber in there just to get like a warmer color. And I'm gonna start putting in my petals, just kind of making my way across my sunflower here. So if you look at my sunflower too, it's kind of a similar shape as to the center. It's gonna
in this way a little bit.
there. So it has like an oval shape. It's gonna kind of mimic that shape. You see what I'm saying? This is like an oval on the side. So I'm gonna start with my petals and we're just gonna go over like how we practiced in our warm-up.
Are these supposed to be lighter? Do you add,
Yes.
add dark stuff on top so they're not supposed to be the darkest color?
That's right, Natalie. What an excellent question. So our first layer of petals is actually going to be a lighter yellow. The ones underneath them are going to be darker because they're behind, so there's a shadow on them. So try and have these a little bit lighter, get your yellow and orange, but then maybe grab a little bit of water and mix that in there too, so it's a nice light yellow. And then just go ahead and start making your petals. Just like that. And remember that the direction of your petals are going to change as they go around the flower. And another thing I like to do with my sunflowers is sometimes I just kind of do the outline shape of my petals and I don't even have to fill them in. I'm just kind of like, do you know what? You're good just like that.
So while you're painting, Katie she said she has trouble finding like the quality of brush like she gets from us. Her brushes at home are not that good. How do you judge the quality of a brush?
So there's many things to think of when you're thinking about brushes. The main thing you have to think of is what your brushes are for. Watercolor brushes are very different from acrylic brushes and oil brushes. So usually the packet or wherever you're buying from will say if it's for watercolor, acrylic, or oil, or different kinds of mediums. It will tell you what to list. Now I like to use synthetic hair brushes because I've noticed that if you're using, sometimes you get the brushes that feel like real hair, and those actually, that's what you bought the first time, and those bristles fall out.
Mine fell out terrible.
Yeah.
You're talking about your eyelashes that one time?
No, I'm talking about, not that time, but
That's a good story.
that is a good story. But I bought some brushes at a hobby store, and I stood in the lobby of the hobby store, and I was at
Michael's.
Sarah's husband's store. Anyway, we literally, we paid quite. Natalie, we were choosing. We paid quite a bit, and this was before you guys had this. And we had, I brought some brushes, and I was just so excited about them. We got them literally as we're painting. There's like hairs all over everything. I mean, it was really
so try and go for a synthetic hair. And it will say, and I just want you guys to know that Princeton brushes, which is the only brushes that we sell, are super high quality. These are excellent brushes.
There's like way fancier brushes though.
There are way fancier brushes, and that's just going into different things. The nice thing about these brushes that I like is they're flexible, but then they also have a nice like snap back in them. Because some brushes are kind of like moppy. They feel like, you know, old mops. So like they just kind of like lay there, which could be good for different things. Like watercolor is still.
Different people use them for different.
That's a deep question, but look for synthetic and look for watercolor. Okay.
Kind of personal preference.
Or just go to letsmakeart.com.
Or just go to letsmakeart.com and then just look at the brushes that we use and buy those ones.
Well,
okay.
And the thing is, I mean, we paint quite a bit now, and I've had these brushes for months.
Yeah.
And they're great.
Okay, the other thing when you're doing these petals, you'll see, so these ones at my top are a little bit more straight, and then as I go out to the ones on my side, this is where I'm gonna add that little kind of curve to them.
Great, now you tell me. You've been over here talking.
I'm talking too much. And then I like...
All right, so...
Lots of layers, so you can add the petals on top.
Now, I want you to like take a look for a minute because you said all the brushes go out at an angle. So I actually turned my paper and did it.
Okay.
So now it does look like a 5-year-old painted that. So how do I avoid?
So this is what I would do. So this is Jenny's. This is her check-in. She turned her paper. So the only thing that I'm really seeing is the problem here are these are almost as long as the top ones.
So make the top ones longer?
So I would go ahead and make those top ones longer, and I would add a couple more curved ones on the side here. So I would go in and just add a couple more that have a little bit more shape to them. And then another thing you can add is drop in a little bit of color right at that bottom point where it meets, to get some variation.
Okay.
See how that one has depth already compared to these ones. So just kind of go around.
Well, I kind of just thought we were on our first row.
We are on our first row.
We are. It's fine.
It's fine. Don't stress about it, but try and make these ones a little bit bigger.
3. Look how much better that looks.
And the cool thing with watercolor, especially since we're using a really light wash the first time around, is we can see these layers. See how we can see these petals underneath that? This is the great thing with watercolor, is you're still going to be able to see what's underneath that.
So do I need to actually lengthen these, or should I just add longer ones?
You can, I would lengthen a couple, do a little of both. We don't want to go too crazy. We don't want to just do a ton on top of each other, because then we're going to actually lose our petal shapes that you've already established. So maybe just make some a little bit bigger and add a couple curved ones in.
All right, I'm game.
It's okay to take your time on this part and be a little bit more aware of the shape of your petals as you're adding them. And I like to drop in the color pretty much as soon as I put that petal on, because it's wet. If you wait too long to drop in that color, it won't spread because your petal would have dried.
Haley just asked if art is your full-time job.
Yes, actually, because you guys are so amazing. This is my job. This is my full-on job that I'm doing right now. This is what I get paid to do. It's so great. I can't believe it. Okay, so now I'm getting to the bottom part of my petals. You'll see that these are just kind of short little guys. Just little. And if there's a lot of space in between yours, that's just great. Natalie has a little bit of white space in between her petals. Can I move yours here?
Yeah.
That's totally fine, because we're going to add petals in between when we do our second layer. So don't stress about that. She has some nice different shapes going on. You can see that her petal shapes are actually changing, and there are some curves, and her first layer bottom is nice and short. Very nice.
Yeah, Raven's asking, so the top one should be your longest petals.
So they're not necessarily the longest, but
pretty much.
You
got a hole in the center.
So if you, if you want to, and we can measure these right now. So if we look, so this is kind of how far out my side goes, my top. So the ones on the side and the top are of similar length, and they're all going to be a similar length when we add our second layer. We really just want to pay attention to this first layer being a little bit shorter. But don't have your petal size be so different from each other at the end that it's like your sides are like, that it makes it look too long and skinny. We still want like a full look.
I disagree.
Al, you want to get here and paint? We've gotten so many requests.
The difference is subtle.
Yeah, Natalie, you were just hitting it.
The difference is what?
Subtle differences.
So the length of the petals, the difference is very subtle because
Yeah.
technically, if you flattened out the flower, they would be roughly all the same length.
Yeah.
So let
But
them be
because it's
as,
at an angle, you want just a tiny bit of difference so you can
Yeah.
tell that it's angled.
it's a subtle change. Okay. I feel pretty good. I might add a little bit more color here and there. I don't want to go too crazy adding these drops of color because again, these first petals are supposed to be our lighter ones because the ones behind them are darker, and the reason why they're darker is because they're underneath. And so these first petals are going to actually cast a shadow on the ones underneath. Yes?
So you say,
Okay,
All right.
that's what happens.
we're casting a
I'm
shadow.
with you.
Okay, but before we do, I don't want to do my second layer of petals just yet because if I try and, you know, start putting some stuff in between, then all these colors are going to bleed together. It's going to get a little bit messy. So I'm going to give this a second to dry, and we're going to move on to step 3, which is we are going to do our stem and our leaves. Okay,
It's okay.
take
This
a
is
deep breath.
It's a thick stem.
It's a thicker stem. You can see here.
There's some tiny ones around the size too, but that
Yeah,
main
those are
part
just
is
little.
pretty thick.
So I always like to start with a softer wash first and then add color in later. So I'm going to mix a little bit of my daffodil and my green. I'm going to go off to the side of my sunflower, and remember the stem is going to have a slight curve in it. Okay, so even if you want to kind of practice that shape a little bit before you go, kind of get used to that movement, we don't want a stick straight stem. Okay, so I'm going to go off kind of the side in between here where my petals are, maybe a little bit here. I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to make my stem, and it has a nice little curve in it, and then I'm going to thicken that up just with water. So I just put water on my brush. I'm just using the color that's already there. Yeah, very nice. And now what I want to do, because yeah, this is a nice stem, this is looking good, but it's looking a little too flat, it's looking a little too light. I like to add, you know, kind of strong bouts of color. Is that the right word? Sure. Strong areas of color in my painting. So I'm going to grab some more iris, and I'm going to get a richer green here, and I'm going to go along the left side of my stem and just drop in this dark green. And my stem is still pretty wet, so it should kind of bleed a little bit, and that's okay. That's what I want it to do. So I'm just kind of adding a darker color onto the left side. And I'm just going to kind of go through and introduce some colors. And then I'm going to take this nice dark green, and right where that stem meets that petal, I'm going to put dark green at that top there, because there is a shadow on the stem itself because it's going underneath those petals. The other thing about watercolor that I really like is you can have these really strong areas of color. So I have some really great dark greens in there, some areas of dark blue. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to grab some yellow. Maybe mix a tiny, tiny bit of blue in there and go along the right side of my stem. And just put in some nice rich color where we have that lighter wash. And you can see I'm not taking my paintbrush and working back and forth over and over on this, because if I did that, then all those colors that I added in would just kind of mix together into one color. And I want some little areas that are like a bright yellow and some areas that are a really dark green. So if you drop in some color, you can help it move a little bit, but don't go back and forth across your entire stem, because you will lose these like, look, if you can see here, I have some really interesting color changes within this stem. We want to keep those. Yeah, very nice.
Now, I have mine kind of going in between the petals. Is that going to be a problem?
No, but what I would do, this is Jenny's here, is I would probably let that dry and do a petal kind of over it.
Okay.
Because we want it to be clear that these petals are in front of the stem.
Okay.
I'll do that too.
Great ideas.
That was really good advice.
I'm just kind of straightening up my stem a little bit because it got a little bumpy. That's okay.
Oh, mine's really bumpy.
That's okay.
Should I worry about that?
No.
No?
If it's not bothering you.
Have you ever seen a sunflower stem? They are bumpy.
They are bumpy and they're like sharp.
Yep.
They are boom.
They are bumpy.
They're super bumpy.
You know what? You ought to take a chance sometime. I'll drive out by Kansas Way. They have fields and fields. It's like,
Actually, there's one right out by Bramer, and it's just,
oh,
How far away is Bramer?
it's
very
just
close.
like
Like
20
right now?
miles.
yes, it's amazing.
All right, sir, we got to go out there.
All right, we gotta go.
No,
Sorry,
for
guys.
real. No, not right this second, but tomorrow. Yeah,
It is
for
like,
sure.
it's
beautiful.
It is
I'll show you some
amazing.
pictures after.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazingly beautiful.
Okay. So we have our main stem. Now we're gonna add our leaves on our, for our sunflowers. Sorry, my brain just stopped working really quick. Okay, so if you need to switch to your 2 to do this nice thin stem, feel free to. I'm gonna stay with my 6 because I feel comfortable getting a thin line with my 6. And then I'm just gonna do a little stem, kind of, I don't want my leaves to be symmetrical on each side of each other. I'm gonna have one that's higher and I'm gonna have one that's lower. And I'm just gonna kind of do a curved line out like that. And where it meets the stem, it can be a little bit thicker. Yep. And then I'm gonna do my other one. Kind of coming out here. Just like that. Now, the other thing with these leaves, if you have noticed, if you're looking at your reference photo, these leaves are also turned on their side because this sunflower, we're looking at it from the side, so these leaves aren't facing us, they're not flat like a hand. The sunflower's not doing this, right? It's like doing this. So we're gonna paint the side of the leaves. So, and this is so much easier than you think it is. You're gonna take your dark green, and I'm gonna do like a curved line that starts off thick, and then as I go down, it's gonna thin out. But it's just like a curve. I have like 1 or 2 little bumps in there. Do a long curve. Yep. Yeah. And then, yeah, and then bring it back up. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know if I got
Don't worry.
That's
It's gonna look great.
adventure.
These leaves are super fun. I love doing them. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now, the direction of this is kind of going out this way. So kind of look at the angle of the leaf itself. So it's not gonna go straight down or straight up. What angle would you say that is, Al?
45, 30.
Give me an angle.
Maybe a 28.
Maybe a 28-degree angle, perfect, okay. And you can start at the tip or at the top.
Dance monkey.
I'm gonna start at the tip on this one, and same thing, I'm just gonna kinda do a curve and it's gonna come back and meet my stem. It's thicker at the top and then gets a little bit thinner at the bottom. And at this top, you want to make sure that there's this nice curve here at the top on both of them. This nice thick curve there going on. Because essentially what we're doing is this leaf is on its side, so we're able to see the top of the leaf and the bottom of the leaf at the same time. So this darker part is going to act as the as the bottom of our leaf, and then now we're going to add the top. So I want you to grab your lighter green, which has more yellow in it. And it's okay if these colors bleed together. This is kind of more of a loose painting, so don't stress. You're just gonna kind of meet right here, not exactly at the top, a little bit lower at the top, and you're just gonna fill in that rest of the shape. And if you wanna do a nicer point, you can always add a point, and then just kind of fill that in. And then just how thick you want your leaf will just tell you how wide it should be. So if you're looking at your leaf and you're like, you know what, that's just a little too narrow for me, well then thicken it up.
I got an idea.
I got an idea. Make your lines thicker.
And if your leaf is too fat, then what?
If your leaf is too fat, you gotta love it because you can't take away paint. So maybe start.
Like our bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
You got
Maybe, it's easy to thicken.
You can thicken it up, but if it's fat, just love it.
You just gotta love it. That's right, Natalie. So if you're worried, maybe start with the thin leaf first and then make it thicker as you go. And this is also where it's fun to add that strong bit of yellow, just right at the top. Drop in some of that color and have some interesting color variation.
You drop in water?
Yellow.
You can drop in water. I'll drop in water. And get some cool textures going on. Yeah, very nice. We're gonna do the same exact thing on the other side. So what I would do for yours, Jenny, here.
Looks like a green bean pea pod.
So it's just that all of these greens are a little bit too similar. So I'm seriously just gonna take straight daffodil yellow and drop it in here. And see how that already is like, oh yeah, that makes it richer, that makes it stronger. And what I would do is after this dries, because this is still a pretty wet, go ahead and go darker again on your
My dark line.
your dark line.
Okay.
So let that dry and then just darken that up because we want that nice dark to light green. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Just kind of fill in my leaf. They do kind of look like green beans or pea pods. Mm-hmm. That's okay. How are you guys doing out there?
Out in sunflower land.
How's your sunflowers looking?
Any questions, Al?
Gosh, I love the colors of my stems so much. Natalie, I would thicken those leaves up a little bit.
Okay.
Jen says the leaves are her favorite.
The leaves are my favorite too. They're just beautiful. They're beautiful because I feel like the color is just so vibrant in them and it does all the work for you. Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna get some interesting colors, interesting textures on the, I mean, just look at my stem alone, that color variation, those watercolor marks in there. It's just so beautiful. I love it so much. Yeah, there we go. There we go, that's nice. Okay.
Woo!
So Debbie's
mine pretty good.
Yeah, it's looking really great. Oh, I love how it did that. So Debbie said she's not able to get the green as dark as mine. So a couple things that you can do. Add more blue to your green. That's gonna get it dark. You can even add a little bit of black in there to get it nice and dark.
Tiny.
It could also be that if your leaf is really wet and you're trying to do a dark area, you have to let it dry. If you try and, if your leaf is way too wet and you're trying to redo that dark line, it's just gonna bleed out and get kind of messy. Wait for that to dry and then go ahead. But I'm using a lot of paint. So because this is a darker value, I'm using more paint and less water. So just pay attention to that ratio that you have on your brush. If your brush is soaked in water and you're trying to mix, you're gonna get a lighter value. So sometimes it's better just to get like a damp brush, barely wet, and then just use mostly paint. And you're gonna get a nice dark green. Add more blue, add more black, see if that helps. That's it, yes. Okay, great. Okay, we did our stems. They look awesome.
Good work, everybody.
Yeah, good job. We finished step 3. Wait, was that step 3? There are 5 steps to this painting.
Yeah, now
Okay.
one more layer.
One more layer and then details. So now we're gonna do our second layer of petals for our sunflower. Now for this,
And might need to change my water because I'm
Okay.
I keep getting like.
Let's do a water
green
change.
Brown, and I'm not sure I want that.
yes, excellent point. Because we're going back to our yellow, let's do a quick water change so our water is fresh, and that way we won't have any green or brown coloring in there. Oh, thank you, ma'am. I'm just gonna sit here and drink water then.
We got it.
You guys need to get cleaner in here.
Yeah,
They chatty, lots of questions.
good. I love it when you guys ask questions. Whew. It's hot.
I like it when you guys ask questions.
I like it when you guys ask questions. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, now for this second layer of petals, this one you're gonna mix in a little bit more of the amber to get kind of a darker yellow. And you're gonna kind of go in between the petals that are already there and just start adding them similar way that you did the first time around. So I'm gonna kind of just start going in between here and adding. Now the thing you also want to keep in mind is sometimes it's okay to go all the way to the center on these. Do that a couple of times, but then also don't go all the way to the center because since these are behind, they're gonna stay behind. So let me show you. So if I'm doing a petal in between here, if I do it right on top like this, then that all of a sudden is in front. Does that make sense? Because I painted it on top. Now what I want you to do is I want you to do the underneath petal, and then when you get to the petals that are already there, stop and just go kind of just in between there. And then now it looks more underneath.
Mine are definitely looking on top.
It could just be how dark the color is. Because your first layer of yellow is really light, go a little bit lighter with your second layer.
Okay.
Yeah. So you kind of have to tune it to what your painting is. So Natalie, her first layer of yellows was really, really light, which is beautiful, that's great. But then she has to change her second layer to make sense of the first one. So her layers are going to be a little bit lighter than mine because her first layer was lighter than mine. If you don't like how that looks, then just go ahead and go over your first layer of petals with the darker yellow, if that's bothering you too much. So we're kind of going in between here. And then if you're going in between, drop in some of that brown right here, in between on a couple of them to get a nice shadow on those petals.
I feel like brown would be scary right here.
I know it's scary. It's scary. It's scary because you don't want it to turn into like a muddy mess. But we don't want to add black because that would kind of add too much gray into our petals, and we want them to be nice and bright and happy. So What?
You know those cartoon characters where their hair is straight up? That's what I feel like this hair up here looks like. I'm like, oh, I need 2 eyes and a smile, and I've got one of those characters. I think I might make this a little wider.
Yeah, widen some of those petals out.
I had a whole visual going on there.
And some of these petals that I'm adding behind, they're just kind of an outline of a petal. Sometimes you can just do an outline and not have to fill it in if it's looking, you know, just a little bit too much in one area.
Debbie just dipped her brush in her milk.
Oh, Debbie.
Like every week. Somebody's a casualty.
I usually drink mine.
You drink your water?
Yeah, I'll just forget and have it be like,
I've definitely done that before. For sure.
Burr.
I feel like I'd be really good at fire.
Yeah.
Fire and a lion's mane.
I know, we got to do a lion's mane. I was thinking about that earlier of how I would teach that. A lion. So I'm getting a nice big sunflower going on. I got great colors, I got layers.
Maybe you better check in with us.
How are you guys doing?
We're feeling a little.
Okay, let me,
How are we looking?
all right. Okay, this
Yeah,
is
but look
looking
at those
good.
leaves.
Okay, I just want to say that your leaves are fantastic.
I love
It does look like a scared cyclops a little bit.
Well, we still have to add more of the center, which is going to add. I think what's happening with your petals is I think they're a little bit more on the thinner side.
Okay.
So I would just take some yellow. We might have to pour a little bit more yellow if we lost it.
Oh, wait, I have some right here.
Oh, good.
Daffodil yellow.
So I'm going to go ahead and thicken some of these up. And then the other thing is the ends of them. You see how much you could see the ends of them and they're really thin?
Yeah.
That's what's giving us this spiky feel.
Okay.
So just go in and thicken some of those up a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
She's a master.
So if it's too spiky, you're like, this is just looking like spiky hair. Just go in. You don't have to do every single one because variation is the key to like everything, but just make some of these thicker and it's gonna lose that feel of being too spiky. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the other thing I want you to do is you have these kind of white chunks in between. I'm just going to take a damp brush and blend those a little bit out because we don't really want to see white spaces at where it meets the center.
Oh, okay.
We can just add a little bit of color here and there. Yeah, that's feeling good to me. Is it feeling good to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, but it's looking great and I am in love with your leaves. Okay, Natalie, how are you doing?
I don't know.
Okay, so this is looking really good. We have some different colors here. We have different shapes, and I love that. I think what's going on here too is I think this side is looking really strong. I like how that's looking. This one I think is looking a little too, all of these petals are a little bit too much the same. And so you kind of have to let them be a little bit more random and add a different, so you know how you did a curve on this side? You want to do a curve also on this side, but it's going to go in the opposite direction. So it's going to be like that, and then thicken that up. And kind of do a couple of that in between. Introduce a different kind of direction to some of these petals. And already it's like, okay, that's filling out.
Yeah, looks better. I was trying to figure that out.
That is why I'm here.
It's really an
I'm
art
here to
form.
help you.
Know, like
Yeah.
what you're trying to do, but
Yeah,
I
no.
knew something wasn't right.
It is, and I think that's the interesting thing about teaching is sometimes I'm like doing something and I do it and I go, okay, wait, why did I do that? And I have to like figure it out backwards. It's like, why, how do I explain what I'm trying to do when I'm not even totally sure?
Right.
It just feels good, feels right. Okay. And
That's interesting because hers is probably more curvy and mine was too spiky.
yeah.
So we're both at the opposite
So it
ends
was
of
like
the-
different problems going on. Now the other thing that I would suggest to do is because we were doing so many layers on top of each other, we kind of lost our depth a little bit with our sunflower. So when this dries, what we can do is we can kind of introduce that depth again by making, what is this? That's a little bit too wet. But you're gonna kind of, you can lift color out of it, or you can just make it a little bit stronger in some areas. Yours is pretty light that it's not super heavy that I need to lift stuff out. I can just add on top. But basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like add a shadow in between some areas. And see how that already looks like a section on its own. And then the other thing I would suggest to do is just take some pure yellow and go over some of the top of a couple of these again and get some nice rich color in there, and it's going to redefine some shapes.
So we've got a few people struggling in the comments.
Yeah, what's going on?
It's just hard sometimes, your first run through. The
Yes.
petals are too close together.
Yes,
Share your experience.
okay, so here's the thing with this sunflower. This is a harder project. So first of all, that you're doing this, like, you are so awesome, because I didn't want to do an outline for this because I want you guys to be a little bit more loose and look at the different sunflowers that we have going on here. Can you see all the different, let me introduce. Okay, we all have different things going on. We all have different colors, and we all have different textures, and we all have different petals. And this is okay. They all are sunflowers. This is great. And this is a harder technique where we're doing different petal shapes as we go around the center of our sunflower. So what I did when I painted a sunflower, I'm like, I want to do a sunflower for a project. Honestly, the first one I did was not great at all. And I was doing that. I'm like, you know what? I need to redo this. So if you're doing this and you're learning as you go, it's always a good idea to maybe try it again. And just because you learn stuff along the way, you'll learn, oh, I can make this petal shape go this way. I can make this petal shape go this way. So don't stress. We give you 2 sheets of paper in there and you can just try it again. Just try it again.
Well, and even when we did the tutorial, just the darkness of it changed
Yeah.
the whole painting.
Yeah. So they're all going to look a little bit different. You might love your leaves and not love your main sunflower as much. That's
And
okay.
I'm actually wondering, you know, you get to a point, like I'm at a point right now and I'm looking at this and I'm like, how do I know if I'm done? Mm-hmm. How do I know if I've put enough? You know, if step 4 is over.
Yeah.
How do you know?
How do you know?
You still have a lot of this white.
I do.
that
Thanks,
you
Jenny.
told me to get rid of.
So, for me, I know.
Couldn't help but notice.
Let me take care of that really quick. There.
Just saying.
Okay.
You missed a spot.
So, for me, how I know when I'm done is if I'm looking at, and if there is not a section where it feels empty, like I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what? there's not an area that feels bare. There's not one area that's drawing me to it. That's when I know that I'm done. So like, you can probably keep messing and painting with this a little bit and kind of keep changing these shapes.
It's probably hard to know with the center unfinished too, right?
Yeah, we're still gonna do the center, which is why it's still looking a little bit weird in the middle. And that's harder. But you kind of just look at it composition wise and just be like, is there a part of this that looks like it's missing petals? Like a chunk of petals is missing. And if it is, then go to that area. If it's not, like Jenny, I'm not looking at yours and being like, one area is just missing something.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it looks great.
There's no white in the middle.
Okay, now we're gonna move on. I feel good about mine. There's not a section that is sticking out to me in terms of missing something. I'm ready to move on to the next step. And the more that you paint, the more that you do this, the more you'll get to know it. So the more you'll be like, you know what, I know that this part is done, and you just kind of get used to that. Would you agree with that, Jenny, now that you've been painting for, 8 months now?
Actually, you know what I think that for me has gotten more is that I'm more confident in my ability to fail. You know, it's like, it's not the end of the world if it's not perfect. Like when I did the koi fish, I hated them, and I sat them up on my hutch, and the next morning I got up and I was like, you know, they look like fish.
Yeah.
You can still see they're fish.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how, you know, you tend to want to go, I'm not an artist, I can't do this, you know, and you want it to be perfect. And then you realize you're getting better and better and better, and you have a little more confidence about trying.
Yeah.
Because I'm not expecting to have a masterpiece here. I'm expecting to have a painting that is somebody who's been painting for, you know, however many weeks I've been painting.
And you can tell what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the harder,
and you're willing to try more.
And you're willing to try more, you're willing to take those chances, and you can say, it's okay if this one wasn't a complete success, I'll just do another one. Yeah. Which is why when I did the sunflower the first time, I'm like, okay, that looks a little bit funky. My stem was way too thick. I tried to do it straight on, so it was just throwing me off, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna try again.
That's exactly what you do, honestly.
Okay. So now we're going to go back and do the rest of the center of our sunflower. How many times can I say center? So I want to. I have a lot of colors going on. I have some different textures going on, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of re-wet the area of this.
All right.
And then I'm gonna start.
Do we touch the middle?
You can touch the middle. This is where we can touch the middle. It had time to dry. So it's gonna bleed out, but just a little. If we did this right when we put the center in, it would have bled way too much. Now you can see I'm leaving a little bit of white chunks in between.
Oh, great.
For telling me.
I can only talk so fast, people. I'm sorry.
No white chunks here. No white chunks
If you don't have any white chunks, that's fine. It's not a big deal. I left 1 or 2, and that's just because I like random white chunks.
I'm counting 5.
Okay. Jenny. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop in some color. So I'm going to grab a little bit more brown.
What were the 2 colors you used brown before?
Amber and black is how I mixed my brown.
Amber and black.
And I put a little bit of green in there, and I'm just gonna start introducing, because if you look at our reference here, the center of our flower, we have a dark green, we have orange, we have brown, we have yellow, we have like a light green, we have like all of the colors going on. So kind of take this time to play with it, just drop in some colors and let them be. If you mix them back and forth too much, they're all gonna turn into the same color. So I'm putting in some browns here. And now I'm gonna grab a little bit green and put that in there.
You wild woman, you.
I'm living on the edge, as I like to say.
She does always say that.
And I'm gonna take this iris and I'm gonna put it in here too. Because this iris is like a dark blue. So I'm getting some cool colors going on. You can maybe even mix a little bit of that iris with black. Get a nice dark blue going on. But the main thing, so I just put in a really dark blue. That's like black, right? it's too dark. We want the center of our flower to be the darkest part. So if you put in a color that's too dark, take your paper towel and just lift that up. And then I'm going to drop in some yellow. Now have the very edge of the center of your sunflower stay more on the browner side. So I put in those colors and I'm just going along with brown and kind of putting it along the edge.
And are we, oh, we are not making a line.
It's not a straight line. They're kind of like how we almost did the first one where it's like dashes. I'm kind of just going along, putting some here and there. And then I'm going to take my black and I'm going to go in the middle. Now be careful not to touch the super wet area when you add this black to the center, because if I touch an area that's super wet with my black, it's going to bleed everywhere. So I'm kind of leaving like a buffer.
Whoops.
If it grabs it and it starts bleeding, just take your paper towel, lift it up.
Actually, do you think mine is,
Oh, I would leave that.
I know, I kind of.
That's cool.
I know, I was like, wait, do I paper
Do
towel?
a close up on that. See how it's kind of just bleeding out? That's really cool.
Just kind of, it looks kind of like a rabbit carrying a hot dish.
Yes, there we go. I love it.
It's like clouds, you know, when you look at clouds.
Okay. So I added some color, I added a little bit of depth. Now we're gonna add our detail lines. Now here's the thing with adding these kind of like dots or little spikes that we're gonna add. One thing to keep in mind is if this is super wet, you might wanna wait a second to let it dry before you do this part. Because if you add those lines, let me show you, it's just gonna kind of bleed out. So I'm gonna do my first round of little spikes around the edges, but I'm gonna do it to where it's like barely kind of touching the center. It's not actually in the...
And there's this out of black?
Yeah, I'm using black. You can mix a little bit of the brown with it so it's not just totally like a flat black. And I'm just kind of going along the edge and doing these little, they're like dashes. Remember to change up length. Remember to change up thickness a little bit because variation is key. And
I need to let mine dry.
yeah, I would let yours dry a little before you add that in there. So I'm just kind of going around the outside, barely touching the part that's wet. So some of them are bleeding a little bit, but it's not too bad. And then as your center dries, you can add a little bit of those dashes and dots towards the center. Now you don't want to do the entire center. If you cover all of that color and texture with these dashes, it's going to flatten your center. So I kind of just stayed more around the rim. I went in this towards the middle a couple of places, but not everywhere. So let's see how dry mine is. Some areas are going to dry faster than others. So you can go there and start adding those in if they're dry. There you go.
It's not going to dry very fast.
Mine
I'm a little
isn't.
water heavy, I guess.
I think I am too.
If it's too, yeah, I wouldn't lift any of that color up though because it's so nice. So you just got to be patient. I'm just kind of playing with the areas that are already dry.
I feel like if this was like white and red, it would be like a Halloween bloodshot on. I think it would look really cool
Yeah,
like that.
totally.
You know, it looks
Zombie
like
sunflower.
Yeah.
zombie sunflower.
Cherry says her flower looks like it's on fire.
Ooh.
Sunset.
Post it, Cherry.
She loves her leaves and her yellow blob
Leaves in my yellow blob.
on a green stick.
On a green stick.
I actually really like my leaves and my stem a lot. I actually really like my whole painting.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to put in a few more.
It's a few more of those detail lines.
Dot, dot, dot,
Yeah.
dot.
I feel kind of good about where mine are. I think what I might do is define a couple of my petals underneath while we're waiting here.
The things around the outside, are they more lines or dots?
They're more lines. They're more dashes.
And do they go out like the direction of the leaves, or do they go
They kind of
sideways?
They don't go sideways. They stay up as they go around.
Oh no.
No, that's okay.
Is it?
Pick it up. Pick it up. Pick it up with your paper towel. You might want to get a bigger piece.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that. Mine actually kind of go out a little bit.
That's okay. I just had mine go straight up, but the sunflower itself, that area is so interesting because it's like a ton of seeds. So they kind of go in a bunch of different directions.
I actually thought when I saw the picture of this that it would be like painting the middle of the bee body, but it's quite a bit different than that.
The
You know?
Yeah.
furry part?
Yeah.
The furry part of the bee body. I was like, that's going to be like painting the bee body.
So you can see here, I'm kind of using like a darker orange to go in and define some of these petals a little bit more. Just kind of adding some shadow to them. You're free to try that if you feel like your petal shapes got lost a little bit. Okay. In mine, I'm going to add one more round of my dots because my center is pretty dry.
I don't feel like mine's dry enough yet. I'm almost
You
ready
guys
to
might
dab
just-
it with a napkin.
You guys might just have to post it when it's done. Because I think we're ready to share. Are we ready to share, Al? I think.
I've always been ready to share.
Okay. I think we're ready. I think I need to change one more petal on the bottom here. Make some of this bigger. Okay, do you think they're dry enough we can hold them up? Tell us when we're ready to hold them up, Al.
Oh my gosh, you are ready.
Okay,
At your leisure.
here we go.
I'm worried my water flower's going to drip, but
They look so good. Good job, you guys.
they look awesome actually.
These colors are so good that it's like, whatever. Wait. Can you see my face?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for painting along. If this is your first time and you're a little bit frustrated, first of all, that's okay. That's a normal thing. This is, trying something new. And this was a little bit of a harder project. So be patient, be kind with yourself. But share your work. I want to see it. You can post it in the comments here, or you can post it on our Facebook group. Let's Make Art Together.
Peaches says there are many types of sunflowers.
There are many types of sunflowers. And all of yours, I'm sure, are awesome. And it's okay if you just like one part of your painting and not another. That's totally normal. We're learning, we're trying something new, and you guys are going for it, and you are so awesome and brave for even doing this. If you put it on Instagram, go ahead and hashtag it Watercolor Sunflower, and you can tag us in it where Let's Go Make Art is our Instagram name. Is there anything else I need to say?
No?
Next week's project?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jenny?
Everybody in the Midwest has been waiting for this.
We're doing a pig! He's so cute!
He is so cute.
It's so
Here we
cute.
go. What, this one?
Charlotte. No, wait, Charlotte's
Wilbur.
not the pig.
Charlotte's
It's Wilbur. So,
Babe.
Babe, Wilbur, all those pig names. So this is what we're painting. This is what we're painting. What, aren't those pigs?
There's probably other people who have those names.
You're right. Sorry.
Like Babe Ruth.
The tutorial for this will be released tomorrow. So if you want to try this beforehand, go ahead and give it a go. Come with your questions, share your work. You guys are awesome and you guys are brave and you guys are amazing for letting me do this as my job. So thank you. Okay.